I, 28, met my husband, 27, 4 years after he divorced who everyone in his family calls the love of his life. It's okay, I don't really care if they think that way, because my husband has assured me that it's not the case and that he'd never consider her the love of his life. He told me that they were pretty toxic and that the relationship grew so bad that the best for both of them was to let go, even when his first wife, Mindy, didn't believe it. It was pretty hard for me to get accepted into his family, especially for his mother. She was so in love with Mindy and adored her as her daughter-in-law. They were pretty close and even got depressed after Mindy moved to another state since she didn't wanted to be near my husband. Time went by, and my mother-in-law and I bonded after the traumatic loss of my father-in-law almost 2 years ago. His passing crushed her horribly, and my husband and I tried to be there for her as much as we could since he's their only child. The joy came back to her life after we had our first son. Mother-in-law found a new push to life thanks to him, and even though we didn't become the perfect family, we are close enough to let my mother-in-law know that she'll never be alone again. But when the pandemic began, money became tight for us, and after having our baby my husband and I decided to prioritize our needs. We used what his father left him and some of our savings to buy a house and decided to have a small celebration after we were legally married, but my mother-in-law said no. She offered to pay for it since she was proud of my husband for doing what was best for our son. At first we said no because it didn't felt right, but my mother-in-law convinced us saying that she didn't want it to miss the wedding just as his husband did if we ended up taking too long. We made it small and simple because we didn't want it to take advantage of her, and we even let my mother-in-law have her way in some decisions. When the big day came, she's Mindy by her side and my husband and I are confused. My mother-in-law approached us and we asked her what was happening. She said that she'd invited her to the wedding because it was a special day. My husband said that yes, it was a special day for us and that Mindy had no business being there and would appreciate if she left. My mother-in-law looked at me and I said that I would rather that too. But my mother-in-law got angry and said that she paid for the wedding and she could invite anyone she wanted. Well, we both agree. We said that Mindy wasn't really anyone and that it was the fact that she didn't told us before rather than inviting her. She said that if Mindy had to go she'll follow and my husband said then do. She ended up saying that she's gonna stay, but that we had to tell Mindy to leave, which my husband gladly did, and my mother-in-law spent all the evening mad. After the wedding we offered to pay for half of it or even everything if she wanted, but she said that the damage was already done. Not the idiot. That was very sneaky and manipulative of your mother-in-law and I'd frankly be disgusted she specifically chose to use her money as a way to get your way. Never let her do this crap to you ever again. Also, I have no idea why Mindy showed up. If I had a bad divorce, I sure as hell wouldn't show up. If I was Mindy and had been conned by the mother-in-law to go, I'd be so pissed off at the mother-in-law for embarrassing the hell out of me. You haven't bonded with her as much as you think you did. She was prepared for a fight when she walked in and then uses the "I paid for it, I get a say on who comes." Totally planned that and that's why she so generously offered to pay. She wanted to bring Mindy all along to cast a pall all over your wedding. That's awful. Don't reward that behavior with apologizing, backing down, letting life go on as it used to. She gave you and her own son a serious slap in the face on your wedding day. Unforgivable. Honestly, I am so happy your husband stood his ground. My in-laws were also close to my husband's ex, and his mom really liked her much more than me. Luckily, his dad and siblings ended up liking me more, so it only becomes an issue when the mom visits. But even then, the mental struggle of having to live under an ex's shadow is hard. I am naturally insecure, so this might be it. But I hope that you are doing better with it and your husband continues to support you. Congratulations on the wedding. I moved in with my boyfriend 4 months ago, and we agreed that I would pay half of the rent and utilities. I am not on a lease, and the utilities are in my boyfriend's name. We have a 2-bedroom apartment, the second bedroom used as a combo home office for me and music studio for him. Then 3 weeks ago his brother moved in. I came home from a weekend trip with my sister and found him there, no discussion beforehand. I was pissed. My boyfriend swore it was for a week at most until his brother moved in with a friend. So he spent a week on the living room couch. Well, to no one's surprise that didn't happen. The friend decided he didn't want the brother to move in. Given that the brother doesn't work, doesn't clean up after himself, and is a general idiot, even my boyfriend admits this about his brother. I can't say I blame the friend. My boyfriend says he can't kick his brother out when he has no place to go and begged me to give him a couple of months. I had started packing my things. I reluctantly agreed, and boyfriend ends up moving my desk into the living room, where I have no privacy while I work, and his music stuff into a corner of the bedroom, where we are basically tripping over it so his brother can have a bedroom. I told boyfriend he has 2 months to get his brother out or I would move out. It gets to the time of the month for me to send money to my boyfriend for bills. I send him 25% of the rent and 33% of the utilities instead of 50% for both. Boyfriend is upset, saying that is not what we agreed. I told him I also didn't agree to live with his brother and I'm paying what I feel is fair given that. My thinking is that every apartment I have shared, you pay rent by bedroom and utilities by person. Boyfriend starts freaking out saying that he can't afford that and that I agreed to his brother staying. I told him that I agreed to not move out. I did not agree to financially support his brother. He told me that I can't just change our agreement and I pointed out that he had when he added a third person to the apartment. Boyfriend insists he doesn't have enough money to pay that much, he is short on money and his old roommate moving out is one of the big reasons I moved in. Boyfriend says that he will end up having to not pay something and that it will kill his credit which he has been working on rebuilding. He tells me that he is already short because he is having to spend more money on groceries with his brother there. I flatly refuse to pay for more groceries. I am refusing to budge. Boyfriend insists that I am trying to hurt him financially because I am angry with him and being petty. I am angry and I know that I can make bad decisions when I am mad. However, thinking about it, I don't think I should have to support his brother. Living with 2 other people should cost less than living with 1 other person. However, I am doubting my own judgment. Am I being petty out of anger? Am I the idiot for not paying 50% of the rent? Absolutely not the idiot. You shouldn't pay half because you aren't getting half. You've been pushed out of your workspace and your bedroom is more crowded since your boyfriend gave up his music space. He's not your brother, so you have no obligation to him. If your boyfriend is so concerned about his credit, then tell him to get the cash from his brother. It doesn't sound like he's unable to work, rather he just sounds unwilling. He'll continue to mooch as long as his brother allows him to comfortably do so. Honestly, I'd move out simply because it's ridiculous that he thinks anything he's done up to this point is reasonable. Everyone's the idiot here. You probably should have communicated your plans to not send 50% before when you discussed his brother staying for 2 months, instead of springing it on him last minute and expecting him to foot the rest when he had no warning. I would believe it's fair to do 33%, seeing as there are now 3 people and it wasn't your decision, but doing it last minute like that is pretty horrible. Everyone's the idiot here. The brother is the idiot because he sounds lazy as hell and needs to get a damn job. The boyfriend is the idiot for not consulting you before letting him stay there. However, when you agreed to let the brother stay, it doesn't sound like you had a conversation about finances. You can't just pay only half of what you were paying and expect that your boyfriend can make up the difference without any warning. You need to pay your rent and leave in 2 months if the brother is still there. I, 40, live in a somewhat rural place. Decent land between houses and a lot of forest. In between me and my neighbor's land there's a decent-sized pond. Technically it's all on my land, but one side of it is surrounded by neighbor land. There's a dock on it. I upgraded it about 15 years ago, so it's somewhat nice. It's right next to the property boundary if that's important. I go down there somewhat often. I usually am down there for a few hours in the evening with my dog, my work computer, and sometimes a drink. My neighbors are in their late 20s or early 30s, moved in a few years ago. They have a pair of young kids, both under 10, I guess maybe 5 or 6 and 8 or 9. Their backyard is not far from where I am in the evening, and neither yard is fenced in. Every few days the kids come outside when I am down by the pond. I ignore them, but about a week ago my neighbors approached me and asked if I would go inside or somewhere else when their kids were outside. They said I made them feel uncomfortable letting their kids go in the backyard and that their kids are also scared of my dog. I do not pay any attention to their kids. I usually am facing away from them and never directly facing them. I do get why they would not want their kids outside alone with me nearby, as much as it's bad, because this seems to have been misunderstood. I am not on any registry, nor do I have any criminal history. However, I get that they may feel uneasy about their kids being around a man that they do not know very well. My dog is always tied up when he's on the dock with me. He never barks when we're down there, usually he naps. He is a fairly large dog, 75-80 pounds, but there is almost no chance he could or would hurt them. They also expressed concern about me drinking. I do not get anywhere near the point of being intoxicated, it's at most one drink when I do have it, and I have it maybe a couple times a month. I told them that I appreciate them reaching out to me, but I'm not going to stop. This week I kept doing it and I got a somewhat angry letter. I'm honestly starting to doubt if I should just head inside when they come out. Am I the idiot for not listening to them, and would I be the idiot if I kept doing what I'm doing? Not the idiot. Put up no trespassing signs and make the parents aware that you cannot be responsible for the kids being on your property. You are worried that the children could fall into the pond or that the dog may misinterpret their presence. You need to protect yourself against a future lawsuit if one of them were to drown. Make it known in no uncertain terms that the children aren't welcome unaccompanied on your property and that you have signs posted. They are old enough to read. Not the idiot. You're on your property and you have a pleasant routine going. They have many other options and have chosen to try to force you to change. Hell no. They can. Be outside and supervise their kids. Put up a fence. But the best option would have been, and it may be too late for that now, to take the time to come out and get to know you. How many memorable evenings could the three of you had sipping drinks on your dock together, just casually chatting while watching the kids play with your dog? They're the idiots, not you. Not the idiot. It's your property. You're not belligerently drunk. It's your life and your yard. You can drink every single day if you want. They don't get literally any say in that, unless you were to weirdly offer said alcohol to their children, which you obviously aren't. You're literally not even looking their direction. Your dog is napping and leashed. There is 0% you being an idiot here. You're literally doing nothing wrong. If I were you, and can afford it, I would 100% be putting up a fence. They can get the hell out of here. Though honestly, they are the ones with a problem. They should be the ones forking out money for a fence. They won't though, because they know that will prevent them from accessing your pond. Me and my now fiancé have lived in this house and neighborhood for a few months now. I have a 1-year-old son myself, so I know how kids can be. However, my neighbors have 3 children. A 9, 12, and 14-year-old. All of them are boys. At first they weren't too much trouble, I would just see them running around, throwing sticks, riding scooters across the street. But as of recently they had started getting a lot closer to my property. This all started with the oldest one throwing various trash into our yard that my fiancé would continually have to pick up. Then, all 3 children started digging holes in our yard, banging on the door, and I even caught them trying to lockpick my front door with a bobby pin. This had happened 4 to 5 times already. Of course, I brought this up to their mother, who has done little about it. They seem to have very little supervision, and apparently CPS had already been called numerous of times because of how often they seem to be left alone. I warned the mother that we have 2 big dogs whose sole purpose was to protect against intruders. So if their sons happened to actually get into my house, they would probably end up hurt. I did not want these little children to end up hurt, of course, which was why I was warning her. She brushed it off, saying if anything happened to her boys she would have me promptly arrested and my dogs put down. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands to ensure the safety of these boys. As expected, the oldest one and his brothers were sneaking around my yard again. I waited until they got closer to the front door. When the second youngest opened the door, I said a command to my dogs and they immediately ran out, barking and growling. All the boys screamed and started yelling. They ran and ran all the way until they got to their house, getting wet by the lawn sprinklers on the way. I called my dogs back, they stopped at the end of the lawn like I had trained them to, and we didn't hear much for a few days. Their mother and the police came knocking at the door. She said some stuff about how my dogs bit her children and I was a danger to the neighbors. But I showed the security footage from my camera to the police and it pretty much died down from there. She's still trying to keep the case open, but I feel as if I've done little to no wrong. Her boys don't bother us anymore and her children aren't hurt and were never going to be. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I have pets, and if anyone threatened to have them put them down it would be hell to pay. Pets are family as well, and their mother threatened your family. You have your own child, your neighbor needs to take care of hers. If she'd taken your warning seriously, none of this would have happened. The boys may be a little spooked, but they're alive and out of your yard. What you did was clever and I say good job. Not the idiot, but I think at this point you should start whatever legal proceedings are open to you. These kids sound like they are very badly behaved, and it's quite obviously the result of their mother's lack of concern and discipline. What if they throw something poisonous into your yard? The mother already tried to bring false charges against you, and if you hadn't had security footage it could have endangered your dogs. This is not acceptable. Please be safe, and good luck. Not the idiot, but you should have reported to the police that her children were trespassing and trying to break into your home and given them a copy of the video. Then they could be charged and CPS could have some personal time with their mother. Each time they do it, report them to the police again. Those buggers need police records, not a scare from dogs. My wife and I have similar occupations and work for the same employer. Before we got married, nearly a decade ago, my wife was dating a distant colleague of ours, John. Their relationship lasted 6 months and the breakup was messy. John is utterly brilliant, but he has the neediness of a child. He frequently pestered my wife for closure after they broke up, even though my wife says the relationship wasn't that serious and she was uninterested in talking to him. While John was polite to me after my wife and I got together, some of the messages he left for her indicate that he thinks she chose me for my money. That isn't true. Eventually, John found work in a neighboring city. His attempts to contact my wife became less frequent and stopped completely a few years ago. She made a point to ignore and block all his calls and messages so as not to encourage him. Recently, John published some research relating to a current project of mine. I thought it wouldn't hurt to reach out to him and ask for a socially distanced lunch outing, and he could decline if he was uncomfortable. As stated above, John is brilliant, and I really wanted to hear his thoughts on a topic we're both researching. I thought it would be a good opportunity to rebuild a bridge. I complimented his recent work and offered to pay for lunch. He offered nice words in return and agreed to meet me at a cafe in the city where I work, which is about 2 hours away from where he works now. On the day of our lunch meeting, my wife decided to join us. She and I found a table at the cafe and waited for John. When he arrived, he saw us sitting together, turned around, got back in his car, and drove off. After this happened, I emailed John and told him I was disappointed. He responded by saying that it was rude of me to bring additional guests to lunch without letting him know ahead of time, especially since he drove 2 hours each way. My wife thinks now that John is still in love with her. According to his social media, he's 40 and unmarried. My wife says that if he is in love with her still, then we definitely screwed up. But it's been a decade and, personally, I think he should be over it. Am I the idiot? Let's just ignore all the other stupid fluff. Who the hell invites someone along to a scheduled lunch or dinner and does not tell the original person they planned the lunch with? Also, is your wife that clueless and narcissist that she immediately thought he must still be in love with her, rather than the part where you two idiots changed plans on the poor man and didn't tell him? You and your wife are massive idiots. You're the idiot. It's always rude to invite a third party without the other person's knowledge or consent. In this case, it's especially egregious because of John's history with your wife. He thought he was meeting with you to discuss a work-related issue. Whether he's still in love with your wife, and I think it's presumptuous of her to think that he is or not, y'all screwed up. And why would your wife want to go along anyway, after blocking and ignoring him to make sure he didn't contact her anymore? Your wife blocks this person from contact and then shows up with no warning to him that she will be there at a lunch you had scheduled with him. A lunch where he would have had no expectation whatsoever of seeing her. You could have just skipped the lunch and threw a glass of water in his face. You know that is what you did, right? I would have left too. You added insult to injury. You two are self-centered.